The crash in the ravine. The sky was dark, filled with storm clouds and sharp lightning. A small alien scout ship flew low across the mountain range, trying to return to base. Inside the ship, a young alien girl named Nairi sat at the controls, her eyes wide with fear. The ship shook violently. System failure. The screen blinked in red. Then, boom! The engine exploded. The ship spun in the air and crashed down into a deep ravine between rocky cliffs. The sound of metal crushing against stone echoed across the empty mountains. The fire spread across the broken ship. Everything went silent until a soft cough was heard from inside the wreck. Nairi crawled out, her left arm bleeding and her breathing fast. Her skin was pale blue, and her clothes were torn. She looked around, dizzy and weak. But something else had survived the crash. A few meters away, lying half-buried under metal panels, was a human male. His leg was twisted the wrong way. One arm looked broken, his body was bruised and bloodied, but somehow he was still breathing. Nairi had never seen a human before, only in data files, pictures, warnings, reports. She remembered the words, "Humans are dangerous. If injured, they fight harder. If captured, they escape. If they look weak, they are lying." She took a cautious step closer, her translator blinking. "Do not move," she said in her native language. Her voice trembled. The human groaned. He opened one eye slowly. "Water," he whispered. Nairi stood frozen. This man had broken bones, was bleeding, yet he was still awake. Her species would be unconscious from this level of pain. She pulled a small canister from her pouch and rolled it toward him. "Drink, but no tricks," she warned. The man slowly reached out with his working hand and took a sip. "Thanks," he muttered. "You are not supposed to be here," Nairi said. "This zone is alien territory." "I crashed here too," he replied. "Looks like we're both lucky." Nairi frowned. "You call this luck?" The man gave a dry laugh. "Still alive, aren't I?" Suddenly, he winced. His broken leg jerked. He groaned loudly. Nairi stepped back, afraid he would pass out. But, instead, the human gritted his teeth. He looked at his twisted leg and did something unthinkable. He grabbed his own ankle and pulled sharply. Snap. A loud, awful sound echoed across the ravine. Nairi's eyes went wide. Her stomach turned. She had never seen anything like this. The human let out a roar of pain, but didn't stop. He adjusted his knee, pressed it against a rock, and snapped it back into place with his own hands. Nairi's mind couldn't understand it. Why wasn't he crying? Why didn't he faint? Her head spun. Her knees buckled. She fainted. When Nairi woke up, everything was dim. She was inside a small shelter, made from metal parts of the broken ships. A weak fire burned nearby. Her wounds were bandaged with rough cloth. The air was warm. A metal flask of water rested near her. She sat up quickly. Her heart beat fast. "Don't worry," said a voice from outside. "I didn't eat you." Nairi turned. The human sat by the fire, leg wrapped in a tight splint made of ship panels. His shirt was torn, his body covered in cuts, but he looked calm. "You saved me?" she asked. "I don't like leaving people in the cold," he said. "Even blue-skinned ones." "I thought you were dying," she said. He smiled. "Not today." Nairi looked at him carefully. The pain in her body was still there, but her fear was growing smaller. There was something strange about this man. Not just strength, but something deeper. She had seen soldiers cry from lesser wounds, but he didn't cry. He didn't beg. He fixed his own bones like it was a normal thing. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The man looked at the stars above. "Name's Jack. Human. You?" "Nairi," she whispered. He nodded. "Nice to meet you, Nairi. Guess we're stuck together." Just then, a soft beep came from Nairi's broken wrist device. The screen flickered. "Search team activated. All survivors will be recovered. Human target, hostile. Capture alive. Nairi's eyes widened in panic. She quickly turned off the device, Jack noticed. What was that? Nothing, she lied. But her voice shook. She had to decide. Tell the team and hand him over, or protect the creature who snapped his bones back into place, just to survive. The fire crackled quietly as Nairi looked at Jack. He stared into the flames, unaware, and that's when she realized he was more dangerous and more human than anything she was ever warned about. What are you? Nairi woke in the middle of the night with her heart pounding. She had just seen a dream, no, a memory. The human snapping his bones back into place, eyes full of pain but never crying out. It wasn't a nightmare. It had happened. She sat up shivering even though the fire still burned warm in the shelter. The smell of burnt metal and blood hung in the air. Jack was not asleep. He sat nearby, staring at the dark sky like he was waiting for something. You don't sleep? She asked, her voice quiet. Jack looked at her. His eyes didn't shine like hers. They were deep, tired, human. Not when I'm hunted, he said. Nairi's throat went dry. You heard my device earlier? I'm not deaf, he said, and I'm not stupid. She didn't deny it. They will come for you. I know. She frowned. Then why are you still here? Why not run? Jack slowly picked up a small blade he had made from the ship's debris. He turned it in his hands. I've run enough in my life, he said. Sometimes you stop running, you fight. But you're injured, she said. They have weapons. Jack chuckled. So do bears. Doesn't mean you let them eat you. Nairi blinked. What's a bear? Jack paused. Let's just say something worse than your squad. Silence fell between them again. Only the fire crackled. Nairi looked at the bandages he had wrapped on his own leg and arm. They weren't done with medical tools, just torn cloth and ship wire. You should be screaming in pain, she said. I am, Jack replied, just not out loud. That answer scared her more than if he had screamed. As dawn broke, Nairi stepped outside the small shelter. The wind was cold in the ravine and the mountain shadows stretched long. She pulled out a small energy bar from her belt and offered half to Jack. He accepted it without a word. After eating, Nairi spoke again. We were told you humans are soft, emotion-driven, weak in body. I've seen nothing but strength from you. Jack looked at her, expression unreadable. That's what they tell you, that we cry easily? Yes, and that you can't survive wounds. Jack pointed to his arm. This? Second time I broke it. First time I was 10 years old. Fell from a tree. Nairi stared. You were a child. Yeah, Jack said. Earth's a rough place. Nairi sat beside him now. What kind of world creates people like you? Jack looked up at the gray sky. A death world. That's what you call it, right? Earth. She nodded slowly. There are storms that can tear buildings apart. Beasts that hunt at night. Poison. In the plants, venom in the rivers, but we survive always. She couldn't look away from him. She had studied Earth in school. The files made it sound like a cursed planet, but she never truly believed those stories. Until now. You're not like us, she whispered. Jack didn't answer. Instead, he stood up slowly, still limping, still, stiff, and walked to a flat rock. He picked up the sharp metal blade he'd made and began sharpening it again, stroke by stroke. Then he turned to her. You asked what I am, he said. I'm not a hero, I'm not a soldier. Then, what? She asked. I'm just a human, he said, voice low. And that means something you don't understand yet. Just then, a noise echoed from the cliffs above. A faint mechanical buzz, a scout drone. Nairi's eyes widened. They found us. Jack didn't panic. He calmly picked up a smoke canister from their supplies and pulled the pin. Smoke burst into the air. The drone paused, scanning, confused. Jack dragged Nairi back into the shelter. We've got an hour, maybe less. Nairi was shaking. They'll send the soldiers. Jack nodded. Let them. Nairi grabbed his arm. They will shoot you on sight, you're outnumbered. Jack looked down at her hand on his arm. Then they better aim well. As the smoke drifted into the sky and the sound of engines drew near, Nairi's heart pounded, not in fear of the alien troops, but in fear of what this human might do if pushed too far, because now she knew something the others didn't. He was not broken, he was just getting started. The hunt begins. The mountain winds howled louder than before, but Nairi didn't feel the cold anymore. Because now, she was afraid of something else. She sat in silence watching Jack work. He moved slowly because of his injuries, but there was purpose in every motion, like a wolf preparing for nightfall. He tied sharp metal shards to wooden poles, dug small holes in the rocky ground, hung tripwires using broken wires from the ship. He wasn't just healing, he was setting traps. Nairi finally spoke. You've done this before. Jack didn't look at her. Too many times. Where? She asked. He tied a final knot and stood. Earth. In the war zones. Before the skies opened and we met your kind. Nairi's eyes widened. You were a soldier? Jack shrugged. Soldier, mercenary, bodyguard, words change, the danger doesn't. She stood slowly, trying to understand him. Why fight now? You can barely walk. Jack looked up the ravine. Because they'll come thinking I'm prey. He turned and locked eyes with her. I want them to learn I'm not. High above, the cliffs, the alien strike team moved silently through the trees. Their armor shimmered with light-bending tech. Their eyes glowed softly under helmets. Their leader, Commander Vane, raised a hand. The group stopped. Thermal traces ahead, said one soldier. Human and alien, female. Target is alive, Vane said coldly. Do not kill him. Cripple him. The soldier smirked. What about the girl? Vane's face turned hard. If she helps the human, she's a traitor. Back in the ravine, Nairi held her breath. Jack handed her a small device, a sharp spike with a button. What is this? She asked. Shock trap. Touch it to any metal and press the button. It fries anything nearby. Last resort. I'm not fighting, she whispered. You might have to, Jack said, his voice steady. Because this time, running won't be fast enough. The first explosion came at dusk. Boom! A scream followed. An alien scout stepped on a hidden pressure mine. His leg was gone. The others shouted in panic, light shields flaring up, but then, darkness. A smoke canister rolled into the squad. Confusion. Shadows. Whispers. Jack moved like a ghost through the smoke, dragging one of the soldiers by the throat. His injured leg slowed him, but his rage made up for it. Nairi watched in horror and awe as he disappeared into the fog, then reappeared, blood on his hands. One soldier raised his blaster, but Jack threw a spear made from broken landing gear. It struck straight through the armor. The soldier fell, Commander Vane cursed. He's using terrain. Split up. But that was their mistake. Jack had mapped every crack, every cliff, every blind spot in the ravine. They weren't hunting him anymore. He was hunting them. Nairi pressed her back to a stone wall, holding the shock device. Her hands trembled. One soldier came close. Too close. She could smell the metal of his armor. She swallowed fear and pressed the spike to a panel. Click, zap! The soldier dropped, screaming as electric current surged through his suit. She stared at her hands. She had just fought for the human. 2 hours later, only 3 soldiers were left standing. Commander Vane was furious. Pull back. We need drones. But Jack was waiting above. He leaped from a ledge, despite his leg, and tackled Vane to the ground. The other soldiers opened fire, but Nairi threw a smoke flare between them. In the chaos, Jack punched Vane once, twice, then held, a shard to his throat. I'm done running, he growled. Vane hissed, you're insane. No, Jack whispered. I'm human. They didn't kill Vane. They didn't need to. When the sun rose the next day, all that remained in the ravine were broken helmets, burnt trees, and silence. Nairi sat beside Jack near the fire again. "Why didn't you kill him?" she asked. Jack looked at the flames. "Because pain teaches better than death." Nairi stared at him. "What are you?" Jack didn't answer, because by now, she already knew. Blood and bone Nairi had seen death before. She had studied war. She had trained in simulations, but she had never seen anything like this human. 3 alien soldiers were carried away on stretchers, their armor cracked, their faces pale. They kept whispering the same word over and over. Monster, not about the animals of this planet, not about some wild alien beast. They meant Jack. At base camp, Commander Vane stood in front of the alien High Council. His hand shook slightly as he replayed the combat footage. "He disabled 7 of us using broken metal traps and his bare hands," Vane said. "He has no fear. He bleeds, but keeps fighting. He is..." He paused. "Wrong." One elder leaned forward. "Wrong?" Vane nodded slowly. "A human should not be able to survive this, and yet, he thrives." Back in the ravine, Nairi watched Jack as he tightened a bandage over his shoulder. The wound was deep, red, and raw. "You need rest," she said. Jack didn't stop moving. "No time." "Let me help," she said again. Jack looked at her with tired eyes. "I appreciate it, but I've had worse." Nairi swallowed hard. "That's not normal." "I'm not normal," Jack said simply. That night, something changed. Nairi heard whispers from her old comm, encrypted messages. A second squad was coming. Not to capture. To kill. She turned to Jack quickly. "We have to go. Now. They're done playing." Jack didn't flinch. "I figured they'd escalate." "You don't understand," she said. "They're bringing drones, fire strikes. You'll be burned alive." Jack finally looked up from his tools. "Then we take the high ground." Nairi's eyes widened. "You mean climb out of the ravine?" Jack nodded. "It's time they see I don't stay in cages." They moved before dawn. Jack's body ached with every step, but he didn't complain. Nairi watched in amazement as he scaled the rock wall with just one good leg and a damaged arm. When they reached the cliff top, the view stretched far, mountains, rivers, and a storm cloud forming far away. Jack pulled out a small reflective shard. He turned it toward the sun and flashed a signal. Nairi gasped. "What are you doing?" "Inviting them," Jack said coldly. Within an hour, the sky roared. Dropships hovered above. Drones flew in a swarm. Jack stepped forward, holding a long piece of rebar sharpened at one end. The soldiers dropped in fast, shouting commands. Nairi stood behind him, clutching a shock weapon. A plasma bolt hit Jack in the side. He stumbled, but didn't fall. He ripped the bolt out of his vest and charged forward. He slammed into the nearest soldier, knocking him flat. 2 others aimed at him, but he rolled behind a tree and threw a burning rock at their feet. The smoke blinded them. Another drone flew low, but Jack leaped up and struck its wing, sending it crashing to the ground. Blood ran down his leg. His side burned, his arm shook. But still, he fought. Nairi screamed when a soldier grabbed her. She kicked and used her device. Zap. The alien dropped, twitching. Jack heard her cry. He turned and saw her on the ground. Something inside him snapped. He roared like a wild animal and charged again. His body should have given up, but it didn't. He fought with teeth and fists, slamming helmets, cracking ribs, knocking weapons away. One soldier slashed his back, but Jack turned and snapped the alien's arm backward at the elbow. Nairi watched. In terror, Jack was bleeding, limping, but unstoppable. Not because he had tech. Not because he had training, because he refused to fall. Finally, only one alien remained, Commander Vane. He stood in the smoke, trembling. "You should be dead," Vane said. Jack limped toward him. "You said that last time." Vane raised his blaster, hands shaking. "Stay back." Jack didn't. Vane fired, click, the gun jammed. Jack didn't smile. He just stepped close, grabbed the blaster, and snapped it in half with one bloody hand. Vane fell to his knees. "What are you?" Jack looked down at him. I'm just a man. Neri stepped beside him. No, you're more than that. They stood together in the smoke as the last dropship fled. That night, Jack collapsed beside the fire. His body finally gave in. Neri wrapped his wounds using everything she had. You should be dead, she whispered. I'll rest later. Jack mumbled, eyes closing. Still got bones to break. Betrayal in the trees. The wind was whispering secrets. The trees around Neri felt different, like they had eyes. It had been 2 days since Jack tore through the enemy squad like a beast from Earth's nightmares. Since then, they had moved camp to a forest higher up the mountain. No more caves, no more ravines, but even with space to breathe, Neri felt something was wrong. Jack was asleep. His body was still healing. He didn't say it out loud, but Neri could see the pain in every breath he took. She sat by the fire holding her communicator. She stared at the blinking green light on the side. She had never turned it off. When she first ran from her unit, she didn't know if she could trust Jack. She had kept the tracker on, just in case. Now the signal was out there. Her people could find them again. Her fingers hovered over the power button. All she had to do was press it. But she couldn't. Not anymore. Not after everything he did. A voice echoed from the forest. Neri, she froze. The voice was familiar. Calm. Cold. She turned, and from behind the trees stepped Commander Vane, alive, but bruised. He walked with a cane, helmet off, face stitched from Jack's last attack. You followed us? She whispered. I followed you, he corrected, because you're the only one who can bring him in now. I won't, she said. You will. Neri's eyes narrowed. You think I'm afraid of you? No, Vane said. But you're afraid of what happens to him if you don't. Help. He held up a small device. A red button. A drone detonator. You betray us now and this forest burns. Neri didn't respond. She backed away slowly, vanishing into the trees. She ran back to camp, her heart racing. Jack sat up as she arrived. He could feel the change in the air. What happened? They're here, she said, breathing hard. Vane. Drones. Fire traps. He says I have to lead you to a clearing so they can strike. Jack didn't move. I'll leave, he said flatly. Take the blame. You stay out of this. No, Neri snapped. You saved me. Again and again. I'm not leaving you. Now? Jack stood slowly, wincing. Then we turned the trap on them. Minutes later, Neri walked alone into the clearing. Drones circled above. Soldiers waited behind trees. Vane stood with his finger on the button. Neri held up her hands. He's coming. Where? She pointed behind them. They all turned, but nothing was there. Suddenly, the ground beneath them exploded. Boom. Smoke burst out. Screams filled the air. Jack leapt down from the trees like a shadow and landed behind enemy lines. He was limping, but his eyes were sharp. He moved like a storm. He slammed one soldier to the ground, rolled under drone fire, smashed another into a tree. Neri kicked a rifle toward him. Jack caught it mid-roll and fired once, twice, dropping 2 drones. Vane ran, but not fast enough. Jack caught him near the edge of the cliff, grabbed him by the collar and lifted him. Still think I'm prey? Jack growled. Vane's eyes filled with terror. You don't belong in our galaxy. Jack leaned closer. You're right, I belong in a worse one. Then he dropped him, not over the cliff, just to the ground. Vane crawled back, humiliated. Jack walked away. He wasn't interested in revenge anymore. Just peace. Later, Neri sat with Jack beneath the trees. You should have killed him, she said. Jack shook his head. He'll spread fear better alive, she looked at him. You're different from us. Jack turned to her. You're different from them. They didn't need more words, because both of them had just betrayed their own to protect each other. Predator unchained, they chained the storm. They thought it was safe. They thought it was over. Jack lay on the cold floor of the alien base. Arms. Shackled behind his back, ankles locked, body bruised and bloody. He wasn't moving. His eyes were closed, his chest barely rose. He looked finished. And that's what they wanted the galaxy to believe. Nairi watched from behind a force field, screaming into the wall. You said he would get a trial. The guards ignored her. They were busy laughing. Is that the human who scared an entire strike squad? One asked. He looks weak now. Let's take a photo. Make him famous. They didn't see Jack's fingers slowly tightening into fists behind him. They didn't notice his right shoulder, dislocated when they cuffed him, twisting slowly, resetting itself with a wet pop. In the central chamber, alien diplomats argued. He's a killer. He's a freak. He's a human, but the head commander, the one who captured Jack, stood with pride. We caged the beast, and now the galaxy will know who is truly in control. Outside the chamber, alarms stayed silent, because nobody knew the storm was already waking up. In the holding cell, one careless soldier stepped too close. Jack opened one eye. Snap. His legs moved first. A twist. A roll. Crack. The guard hit the ground with a broken spine. Jack was on his feet in seconds, using the guard's body to smash the cuffs against the wall. Chains broke. The predator was unchained. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Human has escaped. Lock all exits. Too late. Jack had already taken 2 weapons, a guard's armor and a med pack. He was limping, bleeding, but he was hunting again. Neri's cell door opened with a hiss. Jack stood there breathing hard, her eyes filled with shock. He tossed her a blaster. We're leaving. She didn't ask more, she followed. Hallways turned to battlefields. Jack moved through laser fire and chaos like a phantom. He didn't fight like a soldier. He fought like a wild creature cornered for the last time. Guards screamed, weapons fired, but nothing stopped him. One soldier managed to stab him in the side. Jack didn't flinch. He pulled the blade out and used it to take down 2 more. They reached the central chamber. Doors blew open. The alien leaders froze as Jack limped in, covered in smoke and blood. Commander Vane stared in horror. This is not possible. Jack threw a guard's helmet onto the floor. You caged me, he said. You beat me. You laughed. Then he raised his blaster and fired at the ceiling. A massive pipe fell, cutting off the exit. Flames burst through the room. Now you get to feel fear, Jack said. Neri stepped forward, aiming her own weapon. The galaxy thinks humans are animals, she said. Let's show them what happens when you push one too far. They didn't kill the leaders. They let them crawl out, wounded, panicked, ashamed, because fear would spread faster than fire. Outside, Jack collapsed beside the ship they had stolen. Neri caught him before he hit the ground. You're dying, she whispered. Jack gave a weak grin. Only a little. You're insane. No, I'm human. She held his hand tight. Then I'll stay crazy with you, the human who changed her galaxy. The ship drifted through the stars. Its engines hummed softly. The outer hull was damaged. Smoke still leaked from the side. Inside the small medbay, Jack lay unconscious on the bed, wrapped in bandages. His chest rose slowly, each breath a silent battle. Neri sat beside him, her head lowered, hand gripping his tightly. She had seen people die. She had buried comrades. But watching this human, the one who fought death with bare hands, lay still like this. It broke something in her. 3 days had passed since they escaped the alien facility. 3 days of hiding, avoiding patrols, rerouting old star maps to find safe space. 3 days of Neri praying that Jack would open his eyes again. He didn't. Not yet, but he fought for every breath like he fought everything else, silently, stubbornly, like a warrior who didn't know how to give up. A soft knock came at the door. Neri turned. It was her younger sister, Ayla, standing nervously with food in her hands. He still hasn't woken up, Ayla asked. Neri shook her head. Ayla walked closer, placing the food down. You know, everyone is talking about him now. The human who broke chains, who escaped the high command, who made generals afraid. Neri smiled faintly. He doesn't even like talking. Maybe that's why people listen. They both looked at Jack. He didn't just fight them, Nairi said. He changed me, all of us. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. Some said a single human had destroyed an entire elite team. Others said he couldn't die. Some called him a monster, but many started calling him something else. The reminder, a symbol that humans, though few in the stars, were not to be mocked, not to be broken, not to be hunted. Back in the medbay, Jack stirred. His fingers twitched, his lips moved. Nairi leaned in, holding her breath, and then his eyes opened. "You're still here," he said weakly. Nairi laughed, wiping a tear. "You think I'd leave after all that?" He blinked slowly, then tried to sit up. She pushed him gently back. "No, you rest. You nearly died." "Again." Jack smirked. "That's kind of my thing." She sat beside him for hours, telling him what had happened, how alien citizens, especially the younger generation, had started protesting against the way humans were treated, how some soldiers refused orders to hunt him, how even some of her own people now called him a hero, not because he was powerful, but because he refused to let them decide who he was. "Your name is everywhere now," Nairi said. "Don't want it to be," Jack muttered. "Too late." She paused. "You started something. Something big." Jack looked at her, his face calm. "I didn't do it for them." "I know," she said. "You did it to survive." Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at her again, more serious this time. "I also did it, because you believed in me." That mattered. Later that night, as Jack rested, Nairi stepped outside the ship. She looked up at the stars, so many of them burning bright. A ship approached from above. It landed softly nearby. She waited, tense, until she saw the symbol, not a military one, not a hunter's mark. It was the banner of the Galactic Free People's Movement, a neutral faction of peacekeepers and scholars. The leader stepped out, a tall, elderly alien with kind eyes. "Is it true?" he asked gently. "The human lives?" Nairi nodded. "He's recovering. We want to speak with him, not to question, to learn." Nairi thought for a moment. Then she said, "Not yet. Let him rest. He's not ready for crowds. He's not a weapon. He's a man." The elder smiled. "Then we'll wait." A week passed. Jack finally stood on his own again. The ship landed on a neutral planet where Nairi's people and human allies had gathered. As Jack walked through the open platform, crowds watched silently. He limped. His scars were visible. His eyes were tired, but he walked tall. The crowd parted. Young aliens stepped forward. They held no weapons, only small ribbons of color tied to their wrists. One child stepped up, a girl. She offered Jack a ribbon. He looked at Nairi, confused. She smiled. "It's a symbol of peace, of thanks." He bent slowly, took the ribbon, and tied it to his arm. The crowd erupted into cheers, not because he fought, not because he killed, but because he gave them hope. That night, Nairi and Jack stood beneath the stars again. The sky was quiet. She turned to him. "I told my people I wouldn't let them treat you like an animal again." He nodded. "I told them. You were mine." Jack looked at her. "You mean your responsibility?" Nairi shook her head. "No, mine." He said nothing. But the way he stepped closer, the way his hand reached for hers, it said everything. Years later, stories were told in classrooms across alien worlds. A tale about a single human who couldn't be broken. A warrior who didn't fight for fame, who didn't ask for war. A man who bled, healed, and stood again, not to win, but to protect the only alien who ever called him more than just dangerous. And somewhere, on a peaceful farm under strange stars, a human and a once fainting alien girl lived quietly, raising a daughter with her mother's skin and her father's fire.